Yeah, I'm gonna let y'all know ahead of time that this one should not start with the peace greeting. Ain't no use in that. It would not be appropriate. And I'm also gonna tell y'all straight away, I'm probably gonna cuss in this one. So adult language advisory right now, right off the bat in advance. My people, I have seen these videos about certain states like Florida cracking down on drivers that don't speak and read English, but they're driving freight and cargo trucks with proper CDLs. And I'll tell y'all honestly that I have mixed feelings about that because, on one hand, I don't think that it's okay to go and just endanger regular run of the mill people, even white folks, about whom I don't particularly care collectively. Individually, I do care about those I know, but collectively, I don't particularly care about their community. However, I still don't think it's right to go and endanger even them as a general public when you would endanger their innocent kids, um, those among them in the process of doing nothing other than just going to work and going home and living out normal lives, uncontroversially and unoppressively. I don't know the race of those three in Florida that passed away when they slammed into a truck that was making an illegal U turn on the Florida Turnpike. I only know this. I know that the driver really broke several laws from what I saw, that he turned right to get into the right lane to then turn around and make a U-turn across all lanes of traffic because of the length of his truck. And then someone slammed into him and he didn't even seem to really care. He stopped. He didn't flee the scene, not that he could in that big old truck, but he didn't really seem to care. And then he went back to California, and he probably didn't even flee Florida. I think he lived in California, hence his license, and then he had to be arrested and extradited. And he will face those charges in Florida, for which I'm glad. I am beginning to find it offensive when people don't even try to learn to read and speak at a level commensurate with their particular jobs. And another thing I'm beginning to find offensive is specifically these northern Indians. Sometimes Pakistanis, but certainly these northern Indians. And here's why I'm beginning to find them offensive. Not only are they generally racist and colorist, they give southern Indians a bad name. Many southern Indians are quite neutral at least at first. At least at first. I'm telling you now, your Indian from Kerala is not the same as your Indian from Delhi. That's the first thing I want y'all to keep in mind. Your Indian from Hyderabad is not the same as your Indian from New Delhi. So that's the first thing I want y'all to keep in mind. The second thing I want you all to keep in mind is that your I want y'all to understand that they will lie about their English skills. They'll just lie to people if you ask them, do you speak English or do you read English? Yes, no problem. And they don't. And when they screw up because they didn't understand you, they won't say, well, I didn't understand. They'll just say, maybe it was you. They may even say, well, maybe I just didn't understand you correctly. Yeah, well, you said you understand the language that I'm using with you. And I know this because I've dealt with them here in Saudi. We're not really getting the same ones in Saudi that you're getting over there, but you're starting to get the same ones we get over here. And I'm going to tell you that when they don't have an education, they don't even understand the sound of pain. They're very observant, but they pretend not to be. They don't even know what the sound of pain sounds like from a human being that's not one of them. Ouch, ow, the screams like, they don't know what that means if you're not one of them. Same problem with Egyptians that don't have an education. And they think they're just so smart. And everybody else is just so stupid. They take pride in how they can scam people. If you really want to know how to punish the most recalcitrant and violent of quiches, you drop their asses off in Cairo, Alexandria, Egypt. Or northern India, not the south either. No, the north. Just drop their ass off there. That would be a way that would be something that would either penalize them or it would chew them up and not even spit them back out. It would digest them. They'd either shape up or they would vanish. That's what those environments are like, because while they're trying to get things done in those environments, people will sit up and be like, "Oh, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, let me show you." And they'll just misdirect them. They don't care. Let them go and ask somebody, "Where do I go to get the driver's license?" And they ask an Egyptian that doesn't know. He's not going to say, "I don't know, I never drive." He's just going to lead them somewhere. That man don't feel a guck, and he ain't going to say, "I don't know." You could go through the trouble of learning Arabic for 16 years and then go into Egypt and you won't understand a damn thing. And they'll look at you like, "Oh, you don't speak Arabic." No, they speak Egyptian. They're the ones that don't speak Arabic. Yeah, Egyptians are catching strays in this one. I mention them because some of you have had experience with them. Well, Northern Indians, about the same way. Now, the ones you're getting over there where you live from any part of India, north, south, east, west, take your pick, are generally educated. Same thing with those in Pakistan. But if you go into the UK, people from Pakistan and sometimes from India come from a cross-section of their society. So you got the ones who don't, they can't read nothing. They can't even, and here's the kicker. Some say, "Well, Jet Black, you're over there living in Saudi and you don't speak fluent Arabic and you're teaching them English and you're making them learn English. And then you're mad because they don't speak English over there in the States? Thought you were pro-black." Well, yeah. Here's a kicker with that. I don't hear about black folk going and getting CDLs and they can't speak or write a bit of English and can't obey the signs. Now, I've heard of a few of them that go to the States, and it's rare, but I've heard of a few that go to the States and they don't speak any English at all, but they start trying to learn it. They may go to the States to learn English, but what they don't do is just go and then put themselves in sensitive positions. And they can't do it if the system doesn't allow them. But I'm going to tell you, of course, the problem with white folk is that they built systems that weren't supposed to do this and then abused them so that they could put non-black folks in sensitive positions to shut black folks out. And I don't want you turning around and saying thank you to the Republicans because they cracked down. They're just doing that because they don't like anybody. At the end of the day, some of them have just decided that maybe because of a few things Ann Coulter said about reparations, I think it was her, that they'll just go ahead and give the so-called domesticated Negro a little bit more than they would give people that are not American at all. They are not Western, certainly not Western at all. They might decide to do that because they're going to look at us FBA as domesticated. And that's problematic too. Because they're still looking at us as non-humans that have been domesticated, socialized for human contact. Keep in mind that Republicans are no different in how they view their pets than are Democrats, talking about coming from white society. Both of them now are going through a phase in which they will view pets as part of the family, but wildlife as not. And they're simply saying that if we can't understand what you're saying, then you're part of the wildlife. You're not a domesticated pet. Don't get it twisted. They will make decisions that work out for us. And we can thank God for that, but don't go thanking them because in reality, the question still remains, morally speaking, who the huck are them white folk to tell anybody to get out of anywhere except Europe? And based on what they did in Europe, they don't have a right to say it even there. So what if Holland gets flooded with all these non-whites, and the UK and France, didn't they do the same thing to these other places? So they lost that right too. But I do want you to understand that you are not required to be patient. White folk may not have a really right to complain because, see, when white folks are talking about speak English, I'm looking at them like, no, bitch, you speak Mandan or Blackfoot or Sioux, Lakota. Speak the Dene Bezad, which is what the Apaches and the Navajo speak. This is America. Speak English. Well, we know that, but how about you speak one of the real American languages? Hell, you damn near wiped them out. And don't forget that. You don't have to love the Choctaw if they helped to capture runaway slaves during bondage, but you can sit up and say to white folk, yeah, well, you're living on Choctaw land and don't speak a word of it. And I can't learn it because you wiped the language out. Bitch. White folks still deserve, as a collective society, they deserve the frustration of hearing other people in the States speaking languages that them white folk don't understand. That's something that they do deserve. But you and I don't deserve the inconvenience of asking somebody or assuming that they can speak a language we understand, i.e. English, that was forced upon us, and they say they do, and then they don't, and they start screwing stuff up, whether it's making orders at a restaurant or giving directions. That's not something we deserve. And that's not something we deserve, whether you were here and they lie and say they speak Arabic and English and they don't speak either, or whether you were there in the States and they lie and say they speak English and the English is uckfup, jacked the uckfup, and they will never say I'm still learning or I'm about 70, but no, they won't say that. No, just, I speak it. I am speak it. I am understand. I am understand with your dumb ass. And yeah, I'm calling them dumb because that shit sounds retarded. I am understand. No, say I'm still learning it, if that's how you speak. Then you turn around and say, well, I got a question about this particular item on the menu, and then they write it down and bring it out to you and charge you for it, and you said, I just have a question about it. Never answer the question. They run in the back. You're like, I guess he's going to find out. Maybe he's new. He comes out with it. That'll be $15. Wait, I had a question about that. $15. You mother... And when they screw up, they don't say, oh, I screwed up. They don't do that. Sometimes when they're educated and fluently bi or trilingual, they don't do that. Sometimes. But for the most part, they tend to be more reasonable. But when they ain't educated, and you're starting to see that, they will screw it up and don't care and ain't about to fix nothing. So yeah, I'm a chauvinist about English in my classroom because it's an English class. I'm not a chauvinist about English walking around in Saudi. Hey, why don't you speak it? I don't do that. I also don't let them come to me with chauvinism about Arabic. Hey, why aren't you fluent in Arabic? How long you been here? Well, I'm not fluent because y'all don't know how to explain your language. You speak it, but you don't explain it. And that's a very mean thing to say about them, but it's the truth. Arabs in general, your average run-of-the-mill Arab, especially if he's not bilingual himself, cannot properly explain to you Arabic because most language is subconscious knowledge of its rules of grammar. You don't think about the rules of grammar in your first language. You just know them, you use them, but you don't have to think about them. Then someone comes along and is ready to learn your language and you're not trained to teach it. You don't know how to explain it. You know how to speak it and use it, but you don't know how to explain it. Most Americans are in no position to teach someone and help somebody learn actual correct English. They're not trained for that. And I don't blame them. I just want them to know that. And I have to tell Arabs the same thing. Most of you are not Arabic teachers. You just speak it. but you can't explain it. And you want to ask me why I can't speak it any better than I do. I could ask you a question right now, and as soon as I start using the names of parts of speech in your language, you get confused and don't know what I'm talking about. Well, never effing mind. If I ask you, can you pluralize an adjective? Or what is the plural of this adjective? The answer is yes, you pluralize adjectives in both Spanish and in Arabic. So what is the plural of this particular adjective? Well, now you've got a masculine plural and a feminine plural. Now, when I say this to them, like, huh? Bro, just say this. The question is this a rule or an exception, dummy? I'm trying to make sure I say other things right too. That's how you learn language quickly. You pick up on the patterns. I'm asking you about the patterns so I can pick up on them, and you don't have the patience because you don't know the terminology yourself. Fine. Say, I'm not a teacher. I can't explain the rules. Just go ahead and say it. I don't think before I speak. Therefore, I can't explain how to speak my language. But when you start dealing with that stuff in the States, you black folks have been caught in the middle because the Democrats are too patient with people that don't learn the basics. In India, don't give excuses to them, and I'm going to tell you why. Because India is an English-speaking country. India's national government has English as an official language. The United States does not. States have more rules about which language is the official language than the federal government does in the United States. In India, the official language at the federal government level is Hindi and English. I think states can have extras. The federal government may have extras. In South Africa, English is one of 11 official languages. I think 12 now with Swahili, if I'm not mistaken. It's one of them. It's a default. Nigeria, Cameroon, Ghana, Liberia, Sierra Leone have English as their official languages. Zambia, Zimbabwe, Malawi have Botswana have English as their official languages. You go into the States and it's not even the official language at the federal government level. And you got folks coming from countries where English is the official language and people don't expect them to speak English, and they do. You go into Ghana and they speak English and their own languages. And you go into India, and the problem I've got with that is that, especially in the North, is that people will effing lie to you. Yes, I speak English, which is an official language there, and their English is jack the up. They don't really speak it, but they lie to you. That's really what gets my goat about them. In Egypt, I believe English is an official language. And they'll be like, oh, we speak English because they were colonized by the Brits. And a lot of them are. There are many people there that are actually good in English. There are many people. They tend to stay there. I'm going to get now to the meat. I'm going to land this plane about why I'm talking to you about this in the first place. You can tell these white folk, you be patient with people that don't speak your language. You force this language on everybody else, including us. But then you have the right to turn around and say to them, and you son of a bitch, you lied about your language skills. And you're costing people convenience, let alone their lives sometimes. You have that right. And I think black folks should start doing that. Just cuss everybody out. What you mean you speak English and you don't? How you going to sit there and lie? And not only that, it's mandatory in your country to learn it along with your own languages. You could have been bi or trilingual, and you sitting up here, here's the kicker, you sitting up here lying about your ability in English to get into sensitive positions you shouldn't be in, costing people all kinds of stuff, especially my people who built not just this country, but these countries in the Americas. But then you want to turn around, and the real truth is not only did you lie about your English ability to get into sensitive positions that are going to cost us, you were illiterate in your own damn language. That is the kicker. This is the identifying mark in between these different peoples that'll say they speak a language they don't speak, lying to get jobs and positions and stuff like that. And you can't communicate with them, but you need to communicate with them. But you can't, but you need to, but you can't, and you stuck. And people got the nerve to tell you and me, be patient. Well, we can be patient with people trying to learn if they're honest about it. Why should we be patient with people that just lied and then they don't speak their own language correctly? That's why they can't learn English. 2 of my students came to my office yesterday and they told me the proof. KROOF with exclamation mark at the end. They told me the proof. You know what the proof is? I was talking about when they write. I said, you must punctuate. Stop using commas to end a sentence with your dumb asses. We talked about this. That's not correct in Arabic, English, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, Japanese, nigganese, Bedouinese, saying nigganese. It doesn't matter. It's not correct. That's not what commas are for, period. I told him this. Now, some languages don't have a dot as an ending punctuation, so they replace it with something else, like in Japanese, like in the Bengali language. They have other marks, but they indicate the same thing as a period in most other languages. The point is you got ending punctuation so that the reader knows that's the end of this sentence, continue on. They have that in the Quran. And most Arabs are like, no, they don't. Yes, dumbass, they do. There's a little mark at the top. It's a small J in Arabic. Sometimes it's a sod. I think that means for sajda. But either one of them occurs at the end of a sentence before another sentence starts. Either one of them, which is stankin' ass. Don't tell me no, and I'm sitting up here looking right at it. All it does is indicate this is the end of a sentence. And you never thought about that. That's what the F it is. It's not something you say out loud when you're reading the Quran. It just tells you that that's the end of this sentence. Breathe in and start the next one. With your stankin' ass. You don't pay attention to anything. But these two students came in and they told me, listen, Instructor Black, here's the proof. We have learned more about punctuation in writing from you in 1 week than we have ever learned from the times of our birth up until the first day we met you in class. Our whole lives before you involved and included less talk of punctuation. Even in our Arabic classes, they didn't teach us about punctuation. Commas, nothing, none of that. They went through everything but that. I was like, oh, really? Yeah, well, okay, well, great. Now you know what a comma's for. Now you know what a full stop is for. Thank you for telling me this, but now I taught you this, and I don't care if I only told you this for 1 week. You better start using it. Now, matter of fact, you better start using this 3 days ago. Thank you for telling me, but you got to use it now. If you write screwed up like that, you put apostrophes where they don't belong for plurals. You put commas at the ends of sentences instead of in between clauses within the same sentence. I'm docking them points still. Because now you know, even if you just found out. I have to tell them this. But they told me the truth. So when I teach Arabs and they're learning English jacked up and they're not fixing their mistakes, I'm a chauvinist about it. But why am I a chauvinist? Because my chauvinism, not only is it right for an English class, it's even better for an advanced English class, which is what I teach. In other words, they ain't supposed to come to me with no knowledge of ABC and 1, 2, 3. They're supposed to come to me with sentences that just need some working on and knowledge of how to write them. I'm looking at students in my class in advance, and their English is jacked the up, and I'm like, okay, so you cheated to get into this class. That's what that is. No, you're going to repeat. You were trying to get to an advanced class so you could spend less time in English courses and save some money at this university. No, you're going to repeat until you learn this correctly. My advanced students, well, I told you all about that time that they all failed. They came to me in my office. Instructor Black, we lost a lot of money. Yeah, nigga, I know. But it's the same amount of money you would have needed to become actually good enough to go past this particular level, past this program, to go into the next phase. It's the same amount of money because you all were not at the advanced stage when I met you. So now you need to take your unadvanced asses that got into this class in which you did not belong and do another semester of it to catch the ukfuck and learn this shit correctly before you go to the next phase. So if you had started where you actually belong, you would have spent the same amount of money anyway, nigga. So don't come to me about the money you wasted. No, you didn't waste any. You didn't even lose anything. You tried to cheat so you could save 8,000 US. And trying to save money is fine as long as you're doing it honestly. You niggas were trying to do it dishonestly. Every last one of you. Or you had teachers that were so bad they didn't tell you the truth till you met me. Now you're mad at me for telling you the truth about your English being jacked up. You want us to sound like native speakers. Well, by the end of the semester, goddamn right I do. Yes, nigga, it's the end of the semester. You had 18 weeks with me to fix your mistakes and start sounding a little bit more like native speakers. Not in your accent, that's normal, but in your grammar. And just in your English being correct. Yes, you were supposed to have that fixed by now. You were supposed to have that fixed 4 weeks back. You niggas never fixed any mistakes. Until I would say, hey, say that last sentence correctly. Then you would say it correctly, showing me that you know the correction. You just don't want to think about it before you start talking. You're still at the stage where you talk without thinking, and nobody gets better at a language like that, even if it's their mother tongue. But you know what? They don't lie and say they speak a language they don't speak. You're dealing with Egyptians and Northern Indians and some other people that will be in sensitive positions knowing goddamn well, and they don't care what the rules are, and it's hitting you. I want you to understand exactly the right way to react to that, because the white world does not deserve your sympathy. You being frustrated with that driver from India with a California license he should not have had, and no knowledge of English, though he comes from a country in which English is the official language, in which if he has an education, he should be at least bilingual. Your frustration with him is valid. The white society's frustration with him is not. We are not the same. Don't get it twisted. We have a right to say to people, hey, hold up. Learn the language for your own advantage, and so you're not doing this to other people. And then turn around and say to white folks, you need to fuck the shuck up about what people speak. Because you ain't learned another one of these languages yet, but you forcing everybody to learn yours. Understand that when white folk set them checkpoints up, it works out for us. It's okay for us to look at them other folks that lied and ain't got license they ain't supposed to have and say, okay, see, you didn't know what you were doing anyway. This day was coming. But it's perfectly fine at the same breath to turn around to the white guy that's about to make an arrest because they're not supposed to have that license and say to them, yeah, but see, you screwed up too. Because it's not why you're telling this Spanish speaker here, you don't speak English, you don't read English, get out of this truck, you're under arrest. The question is, when do the Seminole get to walk up and arrest your stinking ass for not speaking Seminole on their land? Bitch. They are still not our friends. And do not mistake some of the things they're doing to crack down on other groups of people that were their victims, even though we don't like them because they don't like us, to mean that they are now our friends. They are not. White America's not a friend of ours. And what Dennis Sperling says about them having an understanding is one thing, it's an understanding. But part of that understanding is that we ain't friends. We can't trust them, and they will not trust us unless they absolutely have to, and we have not betrayed them yet, which is exactly what the F they deserve. We are deserving, and they are not, of the good things. They are deserving of the burdens, and we are not. We are still right, and they're still wrong. Everything we've done that's wrong has been against ourselves, and sometimes against other victims of white supremacy. Sometimes and usually not enough, because when we've done things that were wrong to him, it normally has been after a lot has been done to us by other victims too. But that's a talk for another day. Right now, I want you all to remember this. Our reactions seem kind of volatile in the way that I'm saying they should be. But those are the morally correct reactions. We got a right to look at these folks and say the same thing white folks are saying, and then turn around and tell white folks, you need to fuck the shuck up because you're part of the goddamn problem. All the education that these folks didn't get, well, that has to do with the resources y'all stole. And if it wasn't you, it was your cousins from back on the continent of Europe. You all do the same thing every damn where you go. You are still the colonizer and you're still the problem on the planet. You're still the scourge of Earth. And that's why even the Eastern Europeans get sick of your butt. You can't even treat them right. And then turn around and say to these other groups, you're a fraud. If you lied about your skills in a particular language to get a position, you're a fraud. And just because you want a job does not mean that I should sit up here and have to pay for one thing when I ask for something else. And I just pay for whatever the hell you bring out because you didn't know what I was talking about. I'm going to tell y'all, that's a problem here in Saudi too. I know that. I have gone down a street and had somebody call me over. Hey, black, come over here. Talk to this employee of mine. And come to find out he was really testing his employees to see if they spoke English because they all said they did to get the job. And then when I came down the street, it was his turn to test him. He could find out, do they really speak it? And not a fucking one of them did, even though they all said they did. He must have fired about 4 people that day. I know. I went back to the restaurant later, didn't see a single one of them same people. Why? Not because they didn't speak it, but because they lied to get the job. Answering shit that I never asked them. How are you, sir? How is everything? Which city do you come from? I am from India. I know that. I said, which city? India, sir. That's not a city. He doesn't speak it. He called the next one in. How are you doing, sir? Guy would smile and said, how are you? How are you doing? He just smiled. Sir, did you understand my question? He just smiled. Okay, if he does speak it, he doesn't want to speak. Next. And I don't care if he fired them, because he told me that they speak it, which means they told him that they speak it. And if they just told the damn truth, even if they didn't get that job, they would have got another one, and it would have been honest. I've gone into a restaurant. I told the man, listen, I'm going to finish my soup over here. I'm just going to go wash my hands right quick because I spilled something on it. He nodded his head. I came back. Soup was gone. He still charged me. And the restaurant refused to reverse anything. I saw the manager of that restaurant later on in another city. It was in Mecca at Hajj. And I told him, I don't care how many Hajjs you do until I get my 15 riyal back because of your mistake. Or your employee's mistake, and you kept trying to make excuses, or maybe he didn't understand your language. He told me he did, so he lied, so y'all fix that. You either take it out of him, or you take it out of yourself. I don't care how many hajjs you do, until I get my 15 riyal back, you can go to hell. You do understand me. Maybe your employee didn't understand my language. Did he tell you that he speaks English? Yes. So he lied, and you covered for him, and you let him do it at my expense. They'll do that. That's where the problem comes in. That's why you have a right to be frustrated. And still have a right to tell white folk where your frustration coming from. You the one that came over here. You the one that went over there. You the one that did all of this. They were all fine until you showed up on their shores. Keep it militant, black folk. Thank you for listening. As always, black all, black man, black out, assalamu alaikum, black heterosexual, non-select male power because they don't like it, black patriarchy till extinction of judgment day. Thank you for flying with us here on Jet Black Militant Airways, where the phrase jet black is also a verb. Keep it militant and keep jetting black with us until the wings and the wheels fall off. Gender and racial justice forever.